Hello and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to any new viewers here. This is your girl back at it, Ariel, aka Ari, back at it with another video. Today doing recap Sunday, so basically recapping what I learned and what I got from the sermon from today, right? But before I get into that, if you have not, please like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because I definitely want to hear from you. So today's sermon, summarizing it, we discussed the fact that there's 3 different types of cities, and their functionalities, so to speak, for lack of a better term, and the fact that you cannot live in every city, right? So you have Lodabar, Midian, and the Promised Land. Lodabar is like the inner city of death, right? Where there's no growth, where there's chaos, there's corruption, Then you have the Promised Land, a place flowing with milk and honey, flowing abundance, right? That's what I see. That's what I picture when I hear that, because it's this continual, it's more than enough, it's an abundance, right? It's an overflow. And you have Midian, it's a place of development, where you develop to go back to Lodabar and free the captives that are there. Set the captives free, get them out of Lodabar and bring them to the Promised Land, right? Now the thing is, if their mindset doesn't change, what they may have the mindset enough to want to get out, but don't have the mindset that's fully shifted to go into the Promised Land, they won't be able to go. They'll be stuck in the middle. They'll be stuck in the wilderness. They'll be stuck in Joppa. In the case of an example with Jonah, right? Because he went to Joppa to go to Tarshish. They'll be stuck in the middle because they got out of the inner city. They got out of Lodabar. They got out of Sodom and Gomorrah. They got out. But their mindset hasn't shifted. So they'll be bringing that with them. And they can't bring that into the Promised Land because then they'll corrupt it. So then they're blocked off from there. So then they have to be in the middle and stay outside of the Promised Land. And so with that, they die outside of the Promised Land, just like the children of Israel. A full generation had to die before God was able to manifest his promise, and they go into the Promised Land, right? Because their mindset hadn't shifted. They was physically taken out of Egypt. They was physically taken out of bondage. But mentally, they were still in bondage. Mentally, they was, they wanted to go back. They complained. They did not have the mindset that was culpable or allowed them to go into the promised land. So that ended up having to go to the next generation. So you have all this physically, right? And going into, like what I was saying, mentally, because there'll be that barrier, right? Sometimes you can never be physically in the inner city. You can physically not be in Lodabar. You can physically not be in Sodom and Gomorrah, right? But you can physically and mentally be in a place like that. Because just like, you're dropped off physically in in the inner city, where you're physically dropped off in Lodabar, you can spiritually be dropped off in the inner city. You can spiritually, mentally be dropped off in Lodabar, right? And both are bad. Both are bad, and both are hard to get out of. Both are hard to be in when you're there. Right? And mentally, spiritually, it's not a place where we're meant to live. Lodabar, the inner city, Sodom and Gomorrah, is not a place where we're meant to live. Because going to, like I was saying, we're not meant to live in every type of city, right? When we get out of Lodabar, when we get out of the inner city, and we go to the promised land or Midian, we can live in Midian. We can live in the promised land, but don't go back and live in Lodabar. Don't go back and live in the inner city. Okay, that's not where we're meant to live. That's not where we're meant to pitch our tent. So we have to be careful, because one thing that God revealed to me, and I was able to talk to my apostle about it afterwards, because he only, thought of it naturally, because that's what he was given. God showed it to me spiritually, in terms of being in the place of Lodabar, being in a place of nothingness spiritually because of your father or lack thereof, right? And we have to learn to break it. We have to learn to get out of it, right? We have to accept when we have the help to get out. Because one thing that I noticed is he talked about it, and he was able to relate to the spiritual aspect, because he grew up in the inner city, right? For me, I didn't grow up in the inner city. However, mentally, I was in Lodabar. Spiritually, I was in Lodabar. And it was because my family was in Lodabar. Spiritually, mentally. And had to be taken out. Well, has to be taken out of Lodabar. right? And just as much as physically, and I believe mentally, physically and spiritually, for my dad, my spiritual father, right? Where he had to break it in all angles. I have to break it for my family spiritually. And that's what God had called me to do. And that's what I've been doing. Even though, may try to come back and manifest and all that, right? God said, for me, for my family, I'm the one that's going to break it. And I believe I have. I just have to continue to walk in it so that it does not go down to my future children or their children. So, yeah, that's what we talked about, because your mentality has to change to get into the promised land or to get into Midian. Because you have to want to be free. You have to want to go into the promised land. You have to want to be developed. So if you don't, then guess what? You're not going to go into Midian. You're not going to go into the promised land. You're going to be cut off from there. And if you get out of Lodabar, you're going to be in the middle. You're going to be in the wilderness. You're going to be in Joppa. So, yeah, it was a great service. It was a great discussion afterwards. And this is just, just a snippet, overview of what was discussed. So I hope this was a blessing. I hope this helps out. Join the discussion if you want. I might put down scriptures that he used, because he was in Jeremiah, was it 26:11 or 29:11, for I know the plans that I have for you, and I believe he also is in Hebrews, but I'll try to remember to put it in the description. So yeah, I hope this was a blessing. I hope, you learned something from it, got something from this, and yeah, feel free to share something you got from a service you went to or watched today. I definitely would love to hear from you, and any praise reports, prayer requests, topics you want me to talk about, things of that nature. So, yeah, until next time, be blessed.